In this podcast by T Hub, I will share some of my thoughts on innovation in times of crisis. My name is Kumar Bivudh, and I'm leading business model innovation team and strategic projects at Apollo Tyres. In my career, I have worked in both services and manufacturing sectors, and while I see innovation as a continuous journey for organizations, I strongly believe that innovation becomes extremely critical during a crisis. Now, this topic can be discussed via multiple perspectives and, in fact, can justifiably take a lot of time. Instead, what I intend to do in next couple of minutes is focus on three questions through which I hope I will trigger series of thoughts in you and will also help you with a simple framework that I use to thrive via innovation during the current crisis and also coming out of it. Now, these three questions are quite standard: the why, what, and how. So, jumping on to the first question: why do we need innovation in a crisis? Now, crisis has two sides to it. There is a danger aspect, and also there are a series of changes which happen, and they last. In a recent McKinsey survey, 90% of business managers suggested that the current pandemic crisis would lead to multiple changes and thereby opportunities. Now, this is interesting. In the past, companies that have innovated and captured these opportunities, which have come in form of changing trends, have done exceedingly better than their peers on all possible financial metrics. Now, is that the reason, or is that the answer to the why? While this is more of an outcome, the core reason of why innovation is necessary is quite simple. It is because your customer changes. Your customers' behaviors change drastically during a crisis. Look at the current crisis, for instance. All age groups are now hooked on to digital platforms, even the elderly, whether or not they were active digitally earlier. And that trend is bound to disrupt all industries in one way or the other. There's so many examples for it, be it education, corporate meetings, shopping channels, media consumption, the list goes on. And so, what is relevant to my first question on why is simply customer. This, in fact, is the first and foremost important pillar of the framework I propose. Now, coming to the second question, post the why, the what. What organizations need to focus on to innovate in times of crisis? Look at the current pandemic crisis again. There are disruptions and therefore opportunities across the value chain at customer level, business partner level, employee level, manufacturing level, and overall supply chain. What is bringing such opportunities to reality or will bring such opportunities to reality is going to be, you guessed it right, digital capabilities. And while new age capabilities in form of digital data are important, what actually is needed is the business model focus. This business model perspective can only get the organization to move in the right way and renew the full value chain, which is essential for bringing solutions to these new customer problems in a sustainable manner. A very good example is the subscription offering being brought in by automotive companies. Many players in the car manufacturing space are introducing subscription or pay-per-use offering during the current crisis. Now, an effective and sustainable value offering of subscription would not just end at commercial level, but would require innovation in the channel, supply chain, working capital, adjacent capabilities, and so on. All of this brought together will not just bring a new offering in form of subscription to the market in a meaningful way, but also will help the organization sustain it over a period of time. And so the answer of my second question on what one needs to focus on is the business model. Now, post the why and the what, the next logical question is how. How do we innovate to convert these changes during crisis into opportunities? Getting customer and business model right is half the battle and can definitely help you with a robust strategy or an approach. However, post that, getting execution is right is the most critical piece for that strategy. Execution can spring up massive risks as well. Think about it, considering the time, cost, effort required, and especially with a dynamic and constrained environment in a crisis, one could falter at many points. Especially because innovation also requires new age capabilities and new operating models at times. In such a journey, what increases your probability of success is agility that can take multiple shapes, and to an extent, quick course correction is one of them. Now, what I'm going to offer you one approach that will increase your ability to be flexible and agile at the same time. Again, let's look at the current pandemic. In the initial days of lockdown, we saw some great examples of last mile delivery companies working together to ensure that customers not missing out on essential services. And that collaborative approach is what I'm stressing on as an answer to my third question. Both startups and large organizations can collaborate within the ecosystem to minimize risks, increase speed to market, and in fact help borrow capabilities that would otherwise take long time to come or long time to create. This ensures solving customer problems at the most critical times of need and not later. While collaboration with external stakeholders is something that is visible and we have seen in the current pandemic as well, I would also add another aspect of collaboration. In large companies, where at times there are creations of silos of excellence in different functions, usually for the right reasons in pursuit of efficiencies and scale. However, in crisis, collaboration within the company through cross functional teams can give a huge advantage, both during and coming out of crisis. In fact, if you think about it, we started with the customer, new problem statements coming from the customer end because of the change brought on by crisis, and then having a business model perspective for solving these new problems for the customer. For that business model perspective, one should intuitively require cross functional collaboration within organizations. And if you take it further to collaboration with external stakeholders, you get the combination right. And so the answer of my third question on how is through collaboration. Now, combining the answers to these three questions on why, what, and how brings me to the simple framework I propose of customer at the center, business model, and collaboration. I also call it CBC as an abbreviation, and in my opinion, CBC could be leveraged in any organization, irrespective of its size or sector, and can enable them to innovate and capture changing trends as opportunities during a crisis. These are some of my thoughts on this very relevant topic, and I'm sure that there's a lot not covered in this podcast. I would be keen to continue the conversation with you beyond the podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or via T Hub's platform. Thank you, T Hub, for arranging this podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hope you thrive and not just survive coming out of this crisis with innovation and CBC as an enabler. Thank you.